Okay, so we'll start off with a little bit of backstory on the Alpha Platoon. The Alpha Platoon Squadron was released when Osyria was released, which only included Orbis and Nath at the time. These guys were scattered around in various maps, but there's not really as many of them as you might think. There's only about 5 members. You would see them around though, but they're not actually super prominent in like any context. You may have been interested in the Cape of Warmness quest, which is the only quest that has anything to do with them that still exists today. But it still had a cool mechanic that actually prevented you from taking constant damage in Nath from it being so cold. Their story is explained like immediately in their questline. So in Nath, you find Master Sergeant Fox of the Alpha Platoon, who tells you that they were on an arrow boat when there was an accident on the plane and they all had to parachute their way down. The issue is that all of the men are scattered around Osyria. They were meant to gather where Master Sergeant Fox is, but days have passed and no word has been sent from anyone. He's searching for 3 members of his platoon: Staff Sergeant Charlie, Corporal Easy, and Sergeant Bravo. Instead of finding them randomly though, he suggests that you find them according to their ranks. Since they made emergency landings all over Osyria, you'll have to search every corner of the continent for them. So the first you set out to find is Staff Sergeant Charlie, who you find pretty easily in Orbis. First he says he thought he was the only survivor of Alpha Platoon, but then he says he knew nothing could hurt Master Sergeant Fox. After landing, he found a piece of an ancient scroll that could be somewhat related to their mission. Master Sergeant Fox will be waiting for it, and you can't prove that you've met Staff Sergeant Charlie without the piece of the ancient scroll, and he wants 2 Orichalcon plates in exchange for it. The next member that you find is Sergeant Bravo, who has crash landed in the middle of a snowfield far from Nath. He's been doing his duties as well, investigating around the area, and like Staff Sergeant Charlie, he's also found a piece of an ancient scroll, but he wants 2 adamantium plates in exchange for it. The final member that you find is Corporal Easy, who has landed at the end of the Cloud Park in Orbis. Just like the others, he's also found a piece of an ancient scroll, and he wants 2 sapphires for it. After you find all 3 missing members, and you report back to Master Sergeant Fox, and you tell him that his men are okay, he tells you that the Alpha Platoon is actually here to find those pieces of a document. But he can't really tell you how it'll be used because it's top secret. Since you've retrieved the 3 pieces, it means that his men are actually working hard, so it gives Fox some relief. He asks that you drop by to check in on his men from time to time, as they're still inexperienced, but he gives you a token of his appreciation for your hard work. So this ends up being either like a shoes for jump or speed 60 10% scroll. Despite what Master Sergeant Fox says in the actual quest dialogue, the little blurb when reading the completed quest in your quest log says that the scroll that he gives you is made out of the 3 pieces that you recovered. Apparently, there is one last member of Alpha Platoon that isn't mentioned at all by Master Sergeant Fox or any of the other prominent members of Alpha Platoon, and that is Corporal Wilson, who sits alone in Orbis Park selling pet food. I'm not really sure why he isn't involved in any of the quests or mentioned anywhere, but it seems like there wasn't too much care put into the Alpha Platoon in the first place with their copy-pasted dialogue from each member. So at some other time, you check back with Master Sergeant Fox in Nath, who asks why you're coiling up from the cold. If you were a member of the Alpha Platoon, he'd be grilling you for that. He's kind of forgot that the sheer coldness of Nath brings a chill to everyone, but all you need is a bit of energy, and something else. Something top secret, which he will tell you, after doing him a favor, of course, collecting a bunch of food. He's planning on packing it up for his trip back to headquarters. Originally, the food that you had to gather were multiple things: junior pepes fish, red bean porridge, apples, and eggs. But nowadays, it's been limited to simply only junior pepes fish without the rest of the food. So you bring him everything, and he tells you his secret lies in the cape. When he first got to Nath, a friendly old man gave him a cape laden with magic. The man had lived in Nath for over 300 years supposedly, and didn't really need it anymore. So you go and you speak with Alcaster, who says he's been studying magic for over 300 years and he sees no end to it. Originally, when he arrived in Nath, it was unbearably cold, so he constructed this cape. After so many years though, his body has adapted, so he gave the man his cape. It was the only one that he had, but if you gather the materials, he can construct another. he'll need 4 garnets, 2 magic rocks, 50 dark leady furballs, and 2 hector tails. Once you retrieve everything needed, Alcaster creates the Cape of Warmness, and with it, cold should never be an issue, even in Nath. So Master Sergeant Fox is involved in another quest, although his part is blocked from even being started, as for some reason the quest is just unfinished. After you would hunt down coolie zombies for scatter in the Forest of Dead Trees before reporting to Crag for the Rich quest, you would report to Master Sergeant Fox, who is certain there's a reason for the sudden increase in zombie numbers. There were always only a few in the forest, but they were never a problem until now. He stays on lookout while you ask Alcaster about the zombies, and then the quest just kind of cuts off. There's no written dialogue for Alcaster's response, but if you would have talked to Alcaster about it and then returned to Master Sergeant Fox, that's how you would complete the quest. But I assume Alcaster would have explained Rich instead of Crag being the one to do so, but I guess we'll never know. Sergeant Bravo was also included in an event quest called the Wailing White Fang, where you would eliminate a bunch of White Fangs and then speak to Cassandra. I'm not really sure what this event was about, but it seems super minor, and I've tried pretty hard to look it up, like when it happened or whatever. I can't really figure it out. It was sometime in like version 77 or something, but I can't find any further information about it. It doesn't seem too important anyway. In another old event called the Maple Lifestyle campaign, which was around the 2011 Halloween update, you would pretty much go around just speaking to various NPCs depending on which campaign you chose. It didn't really have any lore or story to it, but Master Sergeant Fox was one of the NPCs that you could talk to. In another version of this event that never went live, but is still in our game files for whatever reason, it's in untranslated Korean still, but Staff Sergeant Charlie was another NPC you could talk to for support. And of course, Corporal Easy used to be involved in the Book of Ancient questline from Nath's Alcaster, as he had found memory powder which could be used to restore the 4 pieces of a map that led to its location. Currently, Sergeant Bravo is involved in the Book of Ancient questline instead, as he looks over the old ring that you find in the nearby tomb, and he thinks that it's special. So I made a whole video about this next part, but if you want to watch that video instead, I'm just going to go over the basics right here. So if you've gone through an entirely long questline that started with Maya's weird medicine, Scatter, a hunter from Nath, was attacked by a werewolf monster, and he's heard one of the soldiers who walked into town was also attacked by the same monster. So you go and you speak to Fox, who tells you that he was unable to defeat the monster in the Snow Valley, but he doesn't have plans to face it again. He'll tell you why he fought it after you gather some things for him. Anyway, as promised, he tells you that the Omega Sector put out a red flag on it and are moving in as you speak. They're gathering up troops, and Master Sergeant Fox is one of them. He thinks it's pretty strange that Omega Sector prides itself on protecting the land, but they put up a red flag on a monster in a remote snow valley far away from their base. And also they're gathering troops to combat a single monster. So clearly something is up. So Fox advises that you eavesdrop on General Maestro. Then you would travel to Omega Sector, and then you would find out that a scientist from Omega Sector made a bunch of lycanthropes that escaped, and so Omega Sector's hunting them down. So one last thing though, Staff Sergeant Charlie in Orbis still to this day has his original exchange quest. If you're unfamiliar with it, you could collect various monster drops from Osiria monsters, which again at the time of release was only Orbis and Nath, and in return you could get rewards for the exchange. Once upon a time, it was actually difficult to get equips as a monster drop, so to offset that, you could craft items through various item synthesizer NPCs, many of which are still in-game, though they're kind of useless since most equips drop like candy, and eventually we did receive the maker skill, and then of course that transitioned into full crafting professions, with materials being very easily accessed. But anyway, before all that, if you were interested in obtaining ores or specific crafting materials such as screws, processed wood, fairy's wing, which you needed for the level 45 arc staff, piece of ice, which you needed for the level 48 chromium wand, and the old Gladius quest, or the ancient scroll, which was also needed for the old Gladius quest, and the level 60 thief gear quest from Pia. But if you wanted these items, you could try your luck with the Orbis exchange quest from Staff Sergeant Charlie. The other benefit to this exchange quest is that you would also gain 500 EXP for every set of 100 items you turned in. So back then, it was kind of a popular method of leveling through the low levels very quickly if you had the items in bulk for whatever reason. So, of course, like many other quests, Alpha Platoons have mostly been removed as well. Only Master Sergeant Fox's Cape of Warmness quest and Sergeant Bravo's involvement in the Book of Ancient quests still remain today. Staff Sergeant Charlie's exchange quest is still in game, but ultimately unnecessary, and Corporal Wilson is just a very basic pet food merchant, but Corporal Easy literally doesn't have anything going for him. But yeah, that's about it for the Alpha Platoon lore. So recently I've been making videos semi-frequently. For now, I'm sticking to a schedule of once a week on Mondays. If you want to subscribe and click the little bell icon, you can get a notification when I actually do get around to making another video. Also, if you enjoy these lore dumps, maybe share the video with your friends or something, it would actually help a lot. But anyway, if there's anything important that I'm missing, let me know.